for the whole hour and a half. So it's going to be fun.
Okay, good. So I came from a very strict Southern Baptist upbringing. We went to church twice a week for 18 years. I was forced to. And I developed a very traditional view of white bearded God up on a cloud, the classic view. And it just never sounds. It was like you, Steve. They would say, believe this, but I said, well, why? They said, don't ask questions, just believe or do. And that won't roll. That's not how I want to live my life. So that brought a schism between me and my traditional upbringing. And I firmly believe, though, that those early years pursuing spirituality led me to yoga because I had always, because of that spark of spirituality, at one point when I was about 14 or 15, I was thinking about becoming a minister. I was that serious about it. Just like you, Maria.
I honored you.
But that didn't work out too well. So here I am to go to teaching. But the goal is the same.
Yes.
The goal is the same. This goal, this practice, is a tried and true thousands of year old practice that some very brilliant people have tread this path. And we are honored to be able to participate. And the Christian religion is a very great path and it's done great things in the world, but it's become a bit distorted on many levels. Politics and money always mess things up. So this practice where I was available to question was important to me. Available to question. Okay. So the question then becomes, what do the Yoga Sutras, what would be considered the classical yoga text in our generation or culture? What does the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali say that? And the other, I don't really like to use the word God too much. For now, I'm going to use the word Ishvara because that Isvara, and that because when I think of the word God, it sort of classifies things into this thinking pattern. When I think of the word Ishvara, I think of the yogic definition of God, much more expansive, and we're about to go through it. Okay, so we have a practice of detachment, or you can surrender to God. Oh, excuse me, surrender to Ishvara. So those are the options. That's what you can do. I mean, there's going to be other options in the sutras, but right now, these are the options in the sutras. Okay. What will this, when I come into contact, when I surrender to God, when I surrender to Ishvara, what happens? Ishvara gives me the ability to see my true self. Now, from no perspective, that self in me and the self in all of you are connected. That's the connection piece. We're all connected. And so, what Ishvara does, if you devote yourself, if you surrender to Ishvara, is and even that it's not a thing. There you go, thank you. It allows you to see that inner self that is the same as them. So that's what the surrender does. Now, this wasn't the beginning of the mention of Ishvara in the yoga philosophy. It actually started 1,000 years BC in a text called Atharva Veda, the Upanishad, about 1,000 years BC. And this, it's theistic, right? It has an element of that theism in it, but it's not this. it's not the creator. In the yoga philosophy, in the Hindu philosophy, creation has always been. There was no starting. So Ishvara is considered the maintainer of the world, the maintainer of existence. Okay, how does that come about? Well, Ishvara is every period of time, 400, 500 years, 1,000 years, comes back as a reincarnation. When the Ishvara, or the Lord, I like the word Lord as well, sees things getting out of balance in the world. Basically, it's about Dharma. When your Dharma is being fulfilled, when your purpose in life and the world's purpose in life isn't happening, the Ishvara steps in. And first of all, it was in the form of Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, he was a reincarnation of the Lord, of Ishvara. The reincarnation of the Lord, Ishvara, has come through many times. I don't want to get into trouble here, but I firmly believe that Jesus was an enlightened soul that came back to the earth to help mankind, and which is exactly what he did in a very good way. Jesus. How about Confucius? Well, not Confucius so much, but all, or Buddha. These are all reincarnated souls that came back to help humanity get back on the Dharmic path. Now, it just comes back in different forms, Ishvara. But this still is separate from the real Ishvara. Ishvara, as we will see going forward, is a special, it's called a special Purusha, or a special being that has never had, okay, enlightened beings like Krishna or Jesus or Buddha, they started off as humans and they evolved towards these spiritual beings. Ishvara never had to do the evolution towards a spiritual being. They were always a spiritual being. They were always out. They were always in charge. So that's your option, or surrender to this being. This Ishvara is able to circumvent the laws of nature by bestowing vision on the student to see the true self. So Ishvara can manipulate nature, can move, if somebody's devoted enough, they will be blessed with enlightenment. It's a very common theme in some of the other spiritual Indian traditions where a guru blesses a student, and bestows upon them a certain grace or energy. You've heard stories of yogis who people sat around them and felt their energy, or they felt calmer. This is the ability of the enlightened one to spread this understanding. And, in a room that somebody might be sitting in, that's small stuff. But the stuff that Jesus and Buddha, Tanjali did in Ishvara is big stuff. They're changing worlds, changing belief systems, changing. So this means that Ishvara is not subject to the wheel of time, samsara. So in the yogic philosophy, in philosophy, there's this idea of samsara, the wheel of time, evolution over and over again. Ishvara isn't subject to that. Ishvara always exists. Okay, so I'm starting to define who this Ishvara is, and that's part of it. That they are not subject to the passage of time. Okay. How do we get to touch or see or understand or feel Ishvara? Well, it's through the word Om. A-U-M or O-M, however you want to perceive it or repeat it or work with. It's the thing that, okay. Part of the yoga practice, we do a little bit of it in this room, but not much, is a repetition of verbal mantras and japas and, things like, you guys have heard me at the beginning of class, and you did chant the word Patanjali, that's the japa, that's a mantra. You can repeat the word Om, or you can repeat mantras like Hare Krishna, or Rama, there's a lot. But there's a special. It's Om. And it's, the reason it's special is it's associated with Ishvara. It's connected to Ishvara. Now, it wasn't just, oh, let's pick a 2-word phrase and say, oh, it's not like that. This was bestowed upon the enlightened beings in the Himalayas thousands of years ago who wrote the Upanishads. And this was sort of revealed. There's 2 types of yogic knowledge. The revealed knowledge from the enlightened beings, and the read knowledge or understood knowledge. So the word Om and the repetition of the word Om was revealed.
The Shruti,
Yeah,
it's a name for it.
yeah, okay. Ishvara always existed, never not existed. It's a sustaining God, not a creating God. So we have these things called kleshas in the yoga practice, and these kleshas are obstacles to our yoga practice. The 5 kleshas are avidya, which means ignorance, and the ignorance that they're talking about in this text are the misrepresentation of the true self. I think that I'm Tom. I'm this guy in this body, I've got this and all this, but that's not true. That's the illusion that I have about myself. My true self lives within that unmanifest part of me that lives in my heart center. So, these kleshas, so that's the avidya. I'm ignorant about who I truly am. The other kleshas are asmita, when I get too involved with my ego self, when I misrepresented my ego self as my true self, when I think that basically I'm important, that's not true. Not really the big picture of life, it's not true. So that misrepresentation of my ego self is an obstacle to true understanding. The other obstacles to true understanding are my attraction to the things in the world that give me pleasure, and my aversion to the things that give me displeasure, or I will not participate in. These, again, are manifestations of my ego self. When I was young, I developed a connection to, say, ice cream. And this has formed my relationship with ice cream my whole life. So I now have a samskara about that ice cream. It's like, oh, well, I need it, I want it, it's not bad for me, as long as moderation, all that. But it's an attachment. So that attachment needs to be not stopped. It's not like I want to stop doing ice cream. It's that I want to stop my attachment to it. And that's an obstacle to true understanding. Then the aversions, just because I don't like something doesn't make it not good for me, or not something I can pursue, or it makes me narrow-minded. So I also want to question the things that I resist, because those resistances are limitations of my ego. I think this whole idea of Asmita and Raga and Devesha put barriers around myself that prevent me from seeing reality, this reality that we all have. So my point with this is Ishvara doesn't have these things. Ishvara doesn't have, so the Lord, from the yogic perspective, doesn't have any likes and dislikes, doesn't have any problem with their ego. Well, can you imagine God having a problem with their ego? So, this is another, it's like, these are the things that are human-like, that are not part of Ishvara. And then it goes on to talk about all of the karmas that we have in life. Like all of the good actions are going to lead to better karmas, all of the bad actions are going to lead to bad karmas, and that you take those from life to life to life. We don't leave our karmas behind. So Ishvara doesn't have karma. They don't have that burden to take from life to life. So it's a much lighter load, Ishvara. Okay, so that was the 124. 126, God is Tatra Niratisayam Sarvagyam Bhavija, means God is the unexcelled seed of all knowledge. Okay, then it goes on to talk about God having omniscience, omniscience, being able to know everything in the world. The Lord has these powers to okay, you know what a seed is. A seed has great potential, but not realized yet. It's just potential at this point. So Ishvara is like the seed. It's got potential, but the manifestness of it is what we participate on. That's that the potential for Ishvara is anything, but it's the seed quality. Okay, so through that, Ishvara is omniscient. There's a couple of other qualities that he has as far as that goes. Unconditioned by time, we talked about that. God, Ishvara is the first, foremost, and absolute guru, unconditioned by time. Okay, when Ishvara comes back as reincarnation to Earth, and it doesn't even have to be a reincarnation. Ishvara is the purpose from the yogic text of Ishvara entering into the world or participating in the world is to give us knowledge, to educate us as human beings in this spiritual path. So if we did not have these texts, if we did not have this knowledge, if we didn't have this history, we would be ignorant about this. We would have very shallow possibilities. This kind of reading and understanding opens up our viewpoint of things. So in that way, Ishvara is spreading knowledge to us. Providing an ability for us to pursue knowledge on our own. The other thing that Ishvara does when they enter back into the world is put us back on the path of Dharma. Dharma is one of these words in Sanskrit that has a lot of connotations and a lot of. But basically, Dharma is the sustaining of the world as it is, not letting the world deteriorate, not letting, I guess, evil take over or bad thoughts. That's just to support this Ishvara. And so that's why Ishvara comes back as reincarnations to sustain us, to protect and establish Dharma. Our senses are limited. So, I can only see what I see. I can only hear what I can't see things happening elsewhere. But Ishvara has the ability to see or feel or sense everything everywhere.
At the same time.
At the same time.
All the time.
All the time. Which coincides with my definition of what God was all those years ago. That was part of my definition of God. Okay, so time. What is time like for Ishvara or the Lord? Time isn't viewed like we view time. Time is a continual changing of the gunas. These gunas, okay, gunas, we talked about it before, but I'll briefly describe them. Rajas, tamas, and sattva. Rajasic guna is a guna, is a, and these gunas are states of being that we all exist in all the time. Right now, all three of those gunas are in all of us, but we are in a tamasic physical state. Tamasic means sedentary. There's no negative or positive here, okay? So tamasic being is sedentary and stationary. Second, Rajasic state of being is a state of activity, a state of movement, a state of movement. And then the sattvic state of being is a state of illumination, a state of quiet internal, state of connection with Ishvara. So that's these three states. So if I'm Ishvara and I'm cruising through the world, the only thing that changes me are these states of Rajasic, Tamasic, and Sattvic state of being. I don't have the clock. I'm not looking at the time if I'm Ishvara. It all is only a state of action, inaction, or enlightened action. Okay, that's that. God is the first, the foremost, the absolute guru, unconditioned by God. So we have to differentiate between, I just mentioned a few enlightened beings, Jesus, Buddha. We have to differentiate between them and Ishvara, because these gurus, they went through a change to get there. Ishvara never had to change. They were always existent all the time, everywhere. It's still hugely important, these spiritual beings that have blessed the earth, really brought us comfort, some understanding, but they're not the big thing. Okay, and he would have been the 27. He's represented by the sacral syllable Om, called pranava. Hey, I spoke a little bit about this, OM or AUM. It is eternally attached to Ishvara. So it is said that if you, in your own mantra mind meditation, continually repeat the word Om over and over and over for a long period of time, this then will bring you in connection to Ishvara. Because remember, the word Om wasn't just something made up, it was a representation of Ishvara. So if I repeat that in the meditative state over and over and over again, I will come into contact with them. So there's something very interesting that happens. I take a class every week online from First Shanta Iyengar in India. And, he's Mr. Iyengar's son, and he's a genius, but at any rate. And we always sit and prepare for class and do the chant just like I do it in my class. But he says something different. As we first sat down, he said, you should be always repeating the word Om in your mind, no matter what he's saying, no matter what you're doing, as a backdrop to your mental process, always repeat the word Om as a preparation for the mental practice that we're about to undertake. So it's like we want to prepare ourselves for this inner journey. To prepare ourselves, we want to form an idea, a thought, something that connects me to the Lord, something that connects me to Ishvara. And remember, according to yoga philosophy, that's a little bit inside me too, my true self. So when I prepare myself to do this journey inward, it's inward. And my destination is the Lord within, Ishvara within, which is represented by the true self. So that's how that, the word Om manifests itself. Thoughts of God, right? As soon as you do that, you think of God. I doubt you'll ever think of the word, you'll repeat the word Om, hear the word Om, and not at some point associated with the Lord. Because I've given you probably had it before this time, but you have an imprint in your mind of God and home, or the Lord, home, Ishvara, and home connected. So from now on, whenever you think of it, that's what hopefully will come up. I couldn't resist this. This is, I'm going on to 29, it was in this whole chapter. A dedicated yogi is bestowed physical health, freedom from bodily and psychological disturbances of embodied life. This was from Edwin Bryant's version. I had to read it a couple of times. A dedicated yogi is bestowed physical health and freedom from bodily and psychological disturbances of embodied life. This is what meditating on God is. When we dedicate ourselves to this understanding, benefits come. I can't tell you how different my life would be if I didn't do yoga, or if I didn't teach yoga, or didn't dive deep into yoga. It's changed my whole view of the world. It's made my physical body better. It's made my psychological life better. It's made my relations with the people in my life better. All of these things have proved, not because I set out to do it, I wanted to do it, but because I'm involved with something like yoga, makes things good happen around me. Okay. So, how does this connect?
I have a couple things to add.
Okay, I just want to say one word,
Go ahead.
one last sentence, and you can go. Absolutely. Since I'm seeking that true self within, my dedication and devotion to Ishvara, the Ishvara would be the big picture. I am the little picture. I am the little self. Ishvara is the big self. So when I understand, devote my mind, mantra to this Ishvara, I then understand my own self better. So that's how that works. When I go to meet the Lord will meet me halfway. But if I don't make those steps, the Lord's just going to say, "Oh, you're just another human. Go on, God. I'll talk to the next person." But so right? Is that what I'm saying? You have to.
That's not in the sutra.
Oh Lord, it's quite fun. But the point is, you have to make an effort first before the effort comes back to you. Okay, go ahead.
I have two things to add from the sutras and the commentary on the sutras. One is, and I don't think I heard you mention it, that Ishvara is also characterized as the original guru, the teacher of the teachers. Mm-hmm. And it's usually explained that if you go back through your lineage, your yoga practice lineage, or whatever lineage you want to attach to, there's somewhere there was an original teacher. And in the sutras, it's usually characterized as Ishvara. So somewhere there was a bridge back to Ishvara as Thomas characterizing it. And that's also ties into when he was talking about there's two kinds of knowledge in yoga philosophy. There's the Shruti, that's the revealed knowledge from Ishvara, and then there's things that people wrote down that then got passed down to us. Mm-hmm. So it's just another way of conceptualizing Ishvara. And then what I like out of Bryant's in 1.29, which is where we wanted to end, was, well, first, I didn't see this in Bryant, and I didn't see it in my translation of the sutras, but I have picked up along the way that in yoga world, there are some super meditators that say if they're quiet enough, they hear the vibration of the cosmos, and what they're hearing sounds like home. I don't know, I'd be interested in your comment on that, run across that, but to add to what Tom's saying about where that comes from, it wasn't just some rishis making it up, 2,000 years ago. That it's the best representation of what they say they would hear in complete stillness, in deep meditation. And I say that as a prelude to, actually, what I'm doing with Brian was Satchitananda, that from this practice, all obstacles, glaciers disappear, and simultaneously dawns a knowledge of inner self. You get in tune with the cosmic power. By that tuning in, you feel the force in you. So it's just another way of saying what happens when you do this practice, where you could end up, could feel like you're tuning in and you feel the force in you. It's that coming together. There's a long 2,500 year plus debate about whether they're in different schools in yoga philosophy, whether there's always a separation or whether eventually you come together. So we're not here to have that big long debate. If you want to dive into that, free on YouTube, Evan Brian, and what I recommend, there's lots of others that have these philosophical academic discussions. They're all very interesting, I think, but it brings us back down to the question we started with is how does this apply in our everyday life? Because I've been hanging around the yoga world for a long time, and people say, oh my God, I'll never get there. I'll never get there until I'm like, why bother? That's why I started with the question, why bother? Mm-hmm. And I try to because you never know, when I hit you over the head or sock you upside the head and you get an epiphany. And yes, you should bother because it might make any difference.
One of the ideas about this is that we're all basing this philosophy on transmigration or reincarnation. And
we're still recording, by the way.
Okay, cool.
We keep going.
And so let's see, let me get my.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I was thinking of, yeah. And the whole point is, let me grasp that thought about the term. Oh, this is it. That each life we live, the spiritual practice that we do in this life will be in our next life. Lauren was just talking about people who ask you, well, I'll just never get there in this lifetime. It's too much work. It's too much this, too much that, too much confrontation with the ego. But what they need to understand is, and then I say this sometimes in class, I say, don't do this posture for you. Do it for your next life. And it changes the way you think about the posture. First of all, right when I said that, I'm sure it changed a little bit of your mind stuff about, hey, the yogis say that I'm going to be reincarnated. And so this is how I deal with that. Because I don't think I'm going to get enlightened in this day. I know I might, but the likelihood is dim. But everything that I do in this lifetime gets me further ahead in the next life. So it's like karma. It takes you, it goes with you when you're reincarnated. Everybody in this room and online are going to come back next lifetime, whether you believe it or not, on a higher spiritual plane of understanding because of what you're doing now. That's how you answer those people. Do it for your next lifetime.
But some people don't think that's going to happen, and that's perfectly fine too.
Yeah.
You don't believe in reincarnation, you don't need to believe in it to be in this group or participate in the discussion.
But what it does for me, whether reincarnation happens or not, it makes my life not today better. Because I'm challenged, because we're in the studio, because we try to help people in this room. Be happier, healthier people. We believe in this whole concept of this spiritual practice. So that's why it's important to keep with it, because we help the world. It's pretty much that simple. Okay,
Yeah, I'm going to turn the recording off.
sure.